If y'all ever wanted to see how the media tries to manipulate you subconsciously, here's an example brought to you by the BBC just this week. So if you look at these two articles and the headline from Twitter, man skateboarding to Africa has his belongings stolen. So here's how the manipulation works. You can see that he's traveling to Africa. It doesn't say where he's traveling from and what country it was stolen in, but they want you to associate danger and Africa together, which is why that's the only country in the headline. But would you believe it if I told you he had his items stolen in France? He hasn't even gotten to Africa yet. So the danger is in Europe, but they don't want you to associate Europe and danger together. They want you to associate Africa and danger together.
Why do they think Africa is full of starving children? Corey, you've never been to Africa, so I'll let you answer that one.
Okay, I haven't been to Africa. I really want to go. Why do they think that? Because it's about representation, what you see. So like, if you go by like the African representation in American media, it is starving kids with their rib cages showing. You would assume that people don't have, that there's no skyscrapers.
So that's all they show you?
Literally.
Take a look at this.
I went to Africa for the first time. People talk about how when you get off that plane and you put your foot on African soil, something happens. And I'm like, okay, cool. Woo woo, Bro, when I got off that plane, I set my foot, my right foot and my left foot, on the ground in Africa, in Johannesburg, at that airport. And the overwhelming feeling, accompanied with goosebumps that hit me, was home.
Africa is beautiful. Does Africa have houses? Actually, we don't have any houses in Africa. The only houses we have here are huts, which are already occupied by the rich people. But for those of us who are poor, we just live in the jungle with the wild animals.
You about to raise my blood pressure, because if it's one thing I'm gonna do, that's advocate for Mama Africa. Now let's talk about some of these preconceived notions. They want you to believe Africa is poor, dangerous, and broken. And that narrative is outdated and it's intentional.
How the hell the people who live in credit call people who pay cash poor? Take example Sweden. I can go to a shop, get an iPhone 12, credit. House, credit. Car, credit.
What's up everybody, welcome back to the channel. I hope you guys are doing amazing. Thank you so much for clicking on this episode. I really do appreciate your love and support on this channel. So on our today's episode, I'm sure most of you have come across this video of this guy that was actually skateboarding from Europe to Africa, and he got his things stolen. And the way that it was put out there by the Western media is that a guy traveling for charity in Africa got his things stolen. They didn't even say where. But we all know the Western media has always tried to paint Africa as this dangerous place that you should not be. They've tried to paint it as a dangerous country where you visit and get sick, get robbed or unalived, because there are so many propagandas about Africa that are out there which are not true. So I watched this video and I really felt bad, especially being an African. Like, there is so much that Africa has to offer. There's so much that they can show about Africa, but they just choose to take this negative part about Africa, this small negative part about Africa, and show it to you out there. And if you don't take your own time to get to learn Africa by yourself, and Africa by the way is a continent, it's not a country for those of you that don't know, because I really get annoyed seeing people, they all think that Africa is a country. It's a continent consisting of 54 countries with so many languages. Yeah, so we are very diverse in Africa. So I get angry when I see people, thinking that Africa is a country and not a continent, and also the ignorance that people have out there about Africa. And it's quite sad because this is what you all want to see on the Western media, rather than doing your own research. In today's era and age, I mean, we are living in a world where we have internet, social media, where you can learn a lot of things about other countries and other continents without you having to be necessarily being there physically. So let's just watch these videos and we'll come back with more commentaries. I would love to know what your thoughts are on these, and if you've visited Africa and you're not from the continent or from the motherland, I'd love you to tell me what's your take or what you think about Africa. So let's just dive right ahead and we'll come back with more commentary.
If y'all ever wanted to see how the media tries to manipulate you subconsciously, here's an example brought to you by the BBC just this week. So if you look at these two articles and the headline from Twitter, man skateboarding to Africa has his belongings stolen. So here's how the manipulation works. You can see that he's traveling to Africa. It doesn't say where he's traveling from and what country it was stolen in, but they want you to associate danger and Africa together, which is why that's the only country in the headline. But would you believe it if I told you he had his items stolen in France? He hasn't even gotten to Africa yet. So the danger is in Europe, but they don't want you to associate Europe and danger together. They want you to associate Africa and danger together. But when they're talking about the fact that he's doing this for charity and he's in Europe doing it for charity for Africa, of course they'll mention where he is, Brighton. Yeah, the media has been like this forever. And unless you know to pick it up, this is how they're manipulating you. Try paying attention from now on and see how the media tries to word things to make it a negative when it's an African country or Asian country or South American country. But when it's a European country, they will always try to put the positive parts at the beginning. Media manipulation 101, people.
I am skateboarding from Brighton in the UK all the way to Tangier in Morocco. I had my own experience with negative mental health when I was around 18, 19. It's not something that ever goes away, but you learn how to deal with it. And this is why I think ever since then, I've always had it in the back of my mind that I want to be able to spread awareness. I'm crossing over to France into Dieppe, which is the north of France. So I'll be passing straight through France, essentially to right to the tip in the south to the corner by Bordeaux. And then I'm going to be passing through the Pyrenees into Spain, and then all the way through into Gibraltar, then across to Morocco. It's 1,550 miles so far. That's what it says on my map, but obviously there's probably going to be added on miles for extra little roads or something, but yeah, I think it's around there. My dad skates, so I've probably been skating since before I can even remember. I actually don't know how I got into skating. That was kind of how it was. It's just always been around, and ever since then I've just been addicted. Yo, TikTok, I realised I forgot to update everyone on here, but I am cool, I'm alive. My bag got stolen, so I lost everything I have, but I've patterned it, new passport, got a new bag, new tent, all that. So we're back on the road, but I haven't really had a time, like I've been manic trying to get everything sorted. So I've edited my videos, which will be uploaded later today when I get to the campsite. Just to let you know, I am alive.
Take a look at this.
I went to Africa for the first time. People talk about how when you get off that plane and you put your foot on African soil, something happens. And I'm like, okay, cool. Woo woo, Bro, when I got off that plane, I set my foot, on my right foot or my left foot, on the ground in Africa, in Johannesburg, at that airport. And the overwhelming feeling, accompanied with goosebumps that hit me, was home. Something came over me when my natural physical body was reunited to the soil of the DNA from which I came. That space, something came over me. That was nothing I'd ever felt before. And I think what I'm saying today is that we have to align ourselves with the original design for us.
Why do they think Africa is full of starving children? Corey, you've never been to Africa, so I'll let you answer that one.
Okay, I haven't been to Africa. I really want to go. Why do they think that? Because it's about representation, what you see. So like, if you go by like the African representation in American media, it is starving kids with their rib cages showing. You would assume that people don't have, that there's no skyscrapers.
So that's
you would
all they show you?
Literally.
Wow.
Now I don't have cable. Yeah. But that's pretty much all they show you.
So this day, I thought this used to be like.
Yeah, because it's social media now, bro. Like,
no, it's the.
We get it. It's empty. You know, they have to bang it on the table.
Pull from an empty cup.
In America, it's like slave movies. The kids with the rib cages and Wakanda.
That's it.
That's it.
So at school, they don't tell you about like what's going on in Africa. Like,
no.
Shit, bro.
Not even kinda. The only time Africa pops up in like the news is, or like it's war torn.
Yo,
it's like Baghdad. That's like the American media representation.
So when you see like a Tyler, Black Coffee, Trevor Noah, like, are you like?
Where did they come from?
Yeah.
Which Africa are they from? I feel like curious.
Because they look fed.
Oh, where's the ribs? Where's the ribs? Shut the fucking ribs if you're African.
Prove it.
I mean, it's funny because that's a great question. Because and like as a black person, as an educated black person, I'm aware that this is not what I see is not what I'm getting.
Of course.
It's not what I see is not what I see is not what is. But yeah, then that's a good question for people who think that it's all starving children.
Well, you about to raise my blood pressure, because if it's one thing I'm gonna do, that's advocate for Mama Africa. Now let's talk about some of these preconceived notions. They want you to believe Africa is poor, dangerous, and broken. And that narrative is outdated and it's intentional. Africa is one of the most resource-rich continents on the planet, holding vast reserves of gold, diamonds, cobalt, rare earth metals, and the raw materials that power the global tech economy. Not to mention, it's also the youngest continent in the world. And 60% of its population is under 25, meaning it's literally the future of innovation, creativity, and labor is already taking shape across the 54 countries. Or is it 55 countries now? But anyway, it's also home to the oldest human fossil. Africa is the blueprint. It's the cradle of modern humanity. And a lot of people speak about Africa and treat it like it's one country, but the continent is vast, it's diverse. Over 2,000 different languages are spoken, hundreds of different cultures, and some of the fastest growing economies on earth. So when outsiders use these preconceived notions to convince you a place is hopeless, it's often because they want to exploit it while you look the other way. And when people tell us, go back to Africa, baby, I pack my bags gladly. But if you only know the Africa they show you, baby, you won't know Africa at all. Have y'all seen the video about people traveling to these countries saying that they're overhyped, or the one that called Zanzibar a catfish? And respectfully, let's talk about the real issue. There's a difference between travel and cultural immersion. And when you fix your face to go somewhere, just to compare it to the States or to search for American comfort, you're not really traveling, you're chasing convenience. But when you're going somewhere just to take the next Instagram pic to enjoy the aesthetics, take the picture and go home. You don't have to bash these people country. Some people don't even deserve no passport. Just stay in Vegas or Miami. But when you travel with a sense of appreciation, when you eat what the locals eat, you wear their clothes, you listen to their stories, and take time to learn the language. You don't just see the country, you feel it. And I've had some of the best times in my life when I lived in Africa. Spent 2 years in Ghana, was in Cote d'Ivoire, Burkina Faso, Mozambique, South Africa, and I experienced the culture every time. And in Zanzibar, culture lives on every corner, in the spices, in the sunsets, in the call to prayer through Stone Town. But when you're looking for resort vibes and Instagram aesthetics, you miss the whole transformative aspect that comes along with travel. And the truth is, Zanzibar is not overhyped, but your mindset might be. So stop showing up with these expectations and a checklist. Let your mind be where your feet are. These countries don't owe you entertainment, but they are filled with experiences that will change you if you open to receive it. If not, then baby, you don't need no passport.
How the hell that people who live in credit call people who pay cash poor? Take example Sweden. I can go to a shop, get an iPhone 12, credit. House, credit. Car, credit. Everything is credit. Even underwear, you can get it on credit. So technically, if you lose your job, you lose everything and you can go to the streets, okay? In Uganda, if you lose your job, you get to keep everything. You'll just worry, where am I gonna get money for school fees? In Uganda, if you see someone walking around with the iPhone 12, they paid cash for it. If you see someone having a house, they built it cash. If you see someone driving a car, it's cash. Because in the world where I come from, if you don't have the money, then you can't buy. We don't have credit.
Yeah, so guys, that is what happened. Like, I mean, it's so crazy that the Western media would rather choose, paint Africa as the bad place that you all should not be visiting, because it's quite dangerous when these guys' stuffs or things were actually stolen in Europe and not in Africa. He had not even left Europe before he got his things stolen. And he was coming to Africa for charity, as they're saying. And I get to ask myself a lot of questions. Like, I see so many people coming to Africa for charity, and I was asking myself, like, there is a guy I was talking to, and this guy, he's from the US, and he really helps people back here in Africa. And there is a time that I was having a conversation with this guy, and it really made me sad to see it. Like, this is how some people actually live in the US. Like, he's very okay helping people out here, but not his family and relatives. He was saying as to why he's actually not helping his family. But I was really mad at him and angry because I wouldn't put anyone else before my family. I have to help my family first. And this is how things are like in Africa. So I got myself asking, I see so many people coming to Africa to offer aid, and I ask myself, why are they not doing it in their countries? Is it that there are no people suffering in their countries, or what's the whole idea, or what's behind these closed doors of people coming to, do charity in Africa? Look at a place like the US, people that are actually suffering from homelessness, that they have to sleep on the streets, they have to sleep in tents. You would not find that in Africa. Yeah, we have people that are actually facing homelessness in Africa, but you'll find that housing in Africa, in some parts, they're quite affordable. We have like people who live in the ghettos where you can actually get a house that you'll sleep and you'll not be rained on. Yes, there are people who just choose. If you choose not to work, honestly, of course, you'll not have a place for you. You cannot be able to pay for your place to sleep or a house. But housing in Africa is quite affordable to so many people. Like, you can afford to live in a better house and not be sleeping outside. You see, the problem with Western media is that they have only taken these part of the negative part about Africa, and this is why you even see you see most Caucasian creators, when they visit Africa, they would rather choose to go to places like, for example, if they visit Kenya, they would rather choose to go to places like Kibra, Kurwa, Njenga. These are like slums, and it's not like if you go to a place like Kibra, there are people who are actually living a very good life. When you get into their house, you'll be like, no, I don't believe that I'm actually here in Kibra. There is a good side of Kibra, but most of them just choose to go to the, to the slum side, and this is what they choose to show to their viewers about Africa. And this actually really makes me angry because, these people have a very big mass following. They have people that are actually following their journey, and when you visit a place like Kenya and you just choose to showcase the negative part about Kenya, it's so sad. And I don't even know why you would, visit, travel, across oceans just for you to come and shoot and show the slums in Kenya, leaving all the good sides in Kenya. I wonder, why do I not see so many of these big creators, especially Caucasian creators, doing videos going to Nairobi National Park, going to Masai Mara, going to Mombasa, and a lot more that Kenya has to offer. Also going to middle class neighborhoods where you get to understand how life is like in most African countries. This image that has always been put out there, there are people who will not visit Africa because they believe when you come to Africa, you are gonna get sick. We have so many diseases in Africa. That is what they say. And, people will just choose to cancel their trips to come to Africa because they are afraid of what they're seeing out there on the Western media. And this is what I'm saying, at this day and age, you should be able to learn about things that, about continents and about different countries without you not having to be there. It's just ignorance that people choose to believe what the media is telling us and what they're actually seeing out there on the media. So there is a time back in 2022 I was in Zanzibar, and people are always when they get to Zanzibar, they're that Zanzibar is not what is shown or what we are told out there, and I think the reason as to why they come and say that is because they're expecting to have the Western standards in Zanzibar, forgetting that Zanzibar is a Swahili island, as just like Tanzania. It is in Tanzania, for those that don't know. It's a very beautiful place with very beautiful beaches, different restaurants from different parts of the world. There is a lot to experience, but I don't know, people expect to go there and see skyscrapers and all that, forgetting about their traditions, forgetting that this is a country or this is a place that I'm visiting with a different background from where I'm coming from, with a different culture. Because I also ask myself, why do you want to travel if you want to have just the same experience as you're having in your country? It does not make sense to me. You are traveling for an experience, but yet you expect to have the same experience in a different country with different cultures and traditions, just like the Western countries. No, that cannot happen. And when you go to Zanzibar, I'm sure like most of you who have been to Zanzibar, you'll find like the beach is full of, you'll think you are actually somewhere in Europe, honestly, because there's so many Caucasian people who actually love Zanzibar, and they always, you know, go there for their holidays. Right now, as we were speaking, like in the month of June, July, when you visit that place, it's so full of Caucasian people, you know, people from Russia, people from Ukraine, people from the US, people from Europe. There's so many people there in Zanzibar visiting just to enjoy and, you know, have a good time, because yeah, that is what you're going there for, to have a good time, enjoy their traditions, get to learn about new cultures, enjoy different cuisines from different countries and even African countries. So if you're one of those people that is always watching these negative things about Africa and believe that, then I want to tell you that you're dumb and you need to go and do your own research, get to learn about Africa. Don't just believe everything that you see here on social media. And this actually goes to all other countries and continents. If you're seeing the Western media painting a certain country in a bad way out there, just do your own research, you know. It's crazy that today you're still believing what the media is telling you when you have access to internet, when you can get to learn a lot of things from social media, when you can even through Facebook, through Instagram, through TikTok, through Twitter, you can connect with people from other different countries. If you're very curious about something, you can just, you know, DM someone if you see like they're from that country and get to learn from them, rather than listening to someone who is like all the way from the US telling you on how a certain country works and how things are out there, when they themselves have never even stepped a foot in that country. Because most of these people that are actually talking about Africa and other places that they always put a very nasty image out there about, they've never even left their countries. And that is the problem. Like, we just want to get information from people who've just been in that country from their childhood till them growing old to their adulthood, and want to believe what they're telling you. Yeah, so I wasn't happy when I saw this, but then I wasn't surprised anyway, because I mean, that has been the case, and I don't expect any of you to be surprised, because this has always been the case about Africa, and, you know, always trying to paint that image about Africa. Let me know what your thoughts are on the comments section. If you haven't yet visited Africa and you're still believing in such narratives, then it's time to pack your bags, visit Africa and see. I'm not like forcing you to visit Africa. That is just because if you want, and you're someone who like appreciates different cultures and traditions, and don't come to Africa expecting to have the same experience as you're having in the US or any other part of the world, in Europe, in China, because that will not be the case. We have our own cultures and different traditions. Even in Africa continent, different countries have different cultures and traditions. So you have to be ready to come and learn and indulge yourself in different cultures and traditions. Thank you so much for watching up to this part, and until the next episode, bye.